Good to see you all on this beautiful sunny day. Thank you for coming out. My name is Marji Graf. I'm the president and CEO of the Rockville Chamber of Commerce, and we're thrilled to be able to have our Public Safety Awards again this year. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it at Lakewood Country Club, but this is the next best thing. And I want to just do a little housekeeping. The ladies' room and men's room are in that door. Take the elevator or the stairs up to the second floor. Okay, and afterwards, help yourself to a boxed lunch from the Bag Deli. And I just want to welcome you to the 32nd Annual Public Safety Awards. Today's event is held in cooperation with the City of Rockville, the Chamber of Commerce, and these following sponsors. Our community sponsors are the Kiwanis Club of Rockville and the Rockville Rotary Club. And then in the back, if you want to visit our corporate sponsors, we have BK Technologies, Campos Financial Group, FirstNet, Montgomery College, ServPro of Rockville-Olney, Sky Point Federal Credit Union, Tasky Neff and Associates, and Westat. And now I'm going to turn the program over to Judy Hruz, the Greater Olney News.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome. Color Guard, present the colors. All rise. All join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. It is my honor to welcome to the podium the Reverend Mansfield Kaseman.
I invite you to pray with me. O Holy One, who goes by many different names, and yet is beyond them all, we thank you for this site made sacred by the sacrifice of those whose names are etched in stone on the wall around us. We come with grateful hearts for their examples of selfless service, together with all the first responders caring for us during this COVID-19 pandemic. We come most of all to recognize the outstanding commitment and bravery of those serving in our public service agencies. We thank you that while most of us take life for granted and get caught up pursuing our own dreams at the neglect of our neighbors, that there are those who put their lives on the line every day and every night for us and for all of our neighbors. Help us now to listen from our hearts and sense your blessing in the lives of those who put others ahead of themselves, who rescue the vulnerable, who have compassion for the needy, who free the victims of violence, and to establish and maintain justice for us all. Forbid that we raise them to superhuman heights and think the same behavior could never be expected of us. Rather, let their stories be sources of insight and inspiration, motivating us all to live and to love with far greater abandonment. We ask it in all your holy names. Amen. Color, order, forward. Color, right, third. Color, forward, 4.
Please be seated. We are going slightly out of turn in the program, just in case you're following along. And I would like to welcome the Mayor of Rockville, Bridget Donnell Newton.
Good morning, and I apologize, but I have a COG board meeting at noon, and thankfully it's on Zoom, so I can get there. But I wanted to be sure to thank the Chamber and thank all of you for coming today as we come together to honor and thank our public safety, our first responders. Today, just 4 days before we commemorate the 20th anniversary of 9/11, it is more imperative than ever that we acknowledge and appreciate the significance of those who put their personal safety, their lives, second to their will to honor their commitment to serve. I use the word will because it is more than a sense of duty. It's more than a feeling of obligation. It's more than a sense of responsibility. For these individuals, it's a calling. These past 18 to 20 months have seen our public safety officials work tirelessly through a pandemic, work through the uncertainty, the unfamiliar, and the very, very afraid. Most recently, the torrential rains that flooded our area created havoc and even death. The extraordinary stress that I and some of you have felt compared little to what the stress our first responders have endured. Throughout all of this, though, the participation level of our volunteers has been tremendous. In fact, for the Rockville Volunteer Fire Department, volunteers gave more time in what we would call a normal year than in what we would call a normal year, adding hours in these times of great need and at much personal risk. I want to take a minute to speak about the loss that the Rockville Volunteer Fire Department has endured this year and recognize the decades-long contributions of service of 2 members who passed away. Alan Hind, past chief of the Rockville Volunteer Fire Department and retired Montgomery County Fire Rescue Squad Division Chief for Volunteers. Serving for 46 years, Chief Hind led with distinction, mentored countless members, continuing a family tradition now carried forward by his son, Christopher. Godspeed, Chief. Thank you for your service. Scott Emmons also served as chief of RVFD, having joined the department in 1991 as a live-in student at Station 31. A detective with the DC Metropolitan Police Department, Chief Emmons was at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th as a detective with the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. Chief Emmons, we thank you for your service and Godspeed. As I said earlier, it is a will to serve, the will to protect and to render aid. The compassion that we've seen over the past days following the flooding and the continued efforts through the COVID-19 crisis. The City of Rockville and Montgomery County are fortunate to have your dedication and commitment. On behalf of all of us, the council, staff, and our community, we are grateful beyond measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Newton. I have been a journalist in this county for over 30 years, and I've been involved with this program for over 30 years. This has been one of my great duties and honors in this community, to present to you the heroes in our community. This community has been a very special event, not just for the winners, but for the people who have attended as guests. And not just because of the awards that we're giving out, but because of the dignity and the way that we give them out. This is our hometown opportunity to say thank you to the people whose lives are on the line every day. And every year after the event, I hear from a dozen people who thank us for continuing to do this. So that's why last year, in the middle of COVID, we did a version of this program the best we could. This year, we moved our program outside so that we could present these awards in a thoughtful and dignified manner. And we thank all of you again for being here. Let me introduce to you the guests that we have in the audience. With us today is Judge James Bonifant. Judge Bonifant, could you wave for, is he here? He hasn't made it. State's Attorney John McCarthy. District 17 Delegate Jim Gilchrist, who, by the way, sits on this committee also. County Council Vice President Gabe Albornoz. County Councilman representing District 3, which includes Rockville, Sidney Katz. I understand, although I haven't seen her, that City Councilwoman Beryl Feinberg was also to attend, but she's not here. I'd like to introduce the chiefs and directors of the departments, and as I do, I would like them to come forward so that we can begin presenting the awards. From the Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Darren Popkin. Also helping out is Chief Deputy Max Wee. Max has also been on the committee for many years. From the Montgomery County Department of Correction and Rehabilitation, Director Angela Talley. And Warden Susie Malagari. From the Rockville Volunteer Fire Department, Chief Jim Vagonis. And President Eric Bernard. And from the Rockville City Police Department, Chief Victor Brito. and Deputy Chief Laura Lanham. As we present the awards and your name is called, please come forward and stand facing the audience as the narrative is being read about your heroic deed. And then please walk off to my right, as you're looking at this, obviously, your left, and stand to the side so that we can get some photos as a group. We would appreciate that. But I'm going to turn it over to the first presentations, and that is Director Talley and Warden Malagari from the Department of Correction and Rehabilitation.
All right. Is it still good morning? Good morning, everyone. Before we announce our winners, let me thank and congratulate all the award recipients on behalf of the Department of Correction and Rehabilitation. It is an honor to be here with you, your families, and others as we recognize your acts of bravery, service, and commitment in the performance of your jobs. And so for our first award for the Department of Correction and Rehabilitation, our Life-Saving Award is awarded to Correctional Officer Serge Akiti. On October 23, 2020, an inmate attempted to commit suicide in the medical unit of the correctional facility by wrapping a blanket around his neck and tying it to the TV stand. While conducting security rounds, Officer Serge Akiti saw the inmate and realized that his legs were not touching the floor. He immediately called for assistance and lifted the inmate to help reduce the pressure around his neck. Responding officers helped to remove the blanket from the inmate's neck, and the doctor administered care. However, it was Officer Akiti's quick action to detail and lifting this inmate off the floor that saved his life. Due to his quick actions, Officer Serge Akiti has earned the Life-Saving Award. So the next award is for the Meritorious Service Citation. This is a long one. Okay. Lieutenant Carlos Taylor began his career with the Montgomery County Department of Correction and Rehabilitation on January 20th, 1998. During his career, he has risen through the ranks and held several positions, including field training officer, McGeo Union shop steward, member of the department's emergency response team, and is currently the administrative lieutenant for the Central Processing Unit, CPU. Throughout his career, Lieutenant Taylor has inserted himself into positions that allowed him to assist not only his fellow staff members, but also members of the other law enforcement agencies and the public. His selflessness and willingness to help the department is evidenced by the exemplary work ethic that he performs in. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Montgomery County and the Department of Correction and Rehabilitation went through unprecedented changes and challenges. In addition to all the duties assigned to him as the administrative lieutenant for the Central Processing Unit, Lieutenant Taylor stepped up and offered assistance in creating and implementing safety measures in the CPU that would be mimicked inside the detention center. He took the initiative in becoming familiar with the protocols related to COVID-19 and became one of the very few individuals to conduct contact tracing for the detention center. Lieutenant Taylor willingly stayed many hours past his assigned shift and even reported to work on his time off to assist in the time-sensitive contact tracing throughout the pandemic. His personal sacrifice to assist the department in times of need did not go unnoticed and were greatly appreciated. Lieutenant Taylor consistently goes out of his way to assist everyone, even those outside of the CPU unit. He has received many accolades for his professional attitude and willingness to help those who need contact or assistance from him. His positive attitude, devoted spirit, and desire to assist are some of the reasons he is honored with the Meritorious Service Citation.
Dan Campos of Campos Financial Group. I'm an independent financial advisor. I serve individuals, businesses, nonprofits, and I'm happy to be here today to support public safety. I think it's extremely important in these times that, we love our police, we love our fire, they're our friends and our neighbors, and I think it's important to be here as a member of the business community to make that clear and show support.
Next, I welcome to the program Chief Brito and Deputy Chief Lanham.
Good morning, everyone. I want to personally thank the Chamber for all their efforts in the last 33 years. It's been a wonderful outpouring of support for our first responders here. But equally, before we get started in our awards for our Rockville City Police officers, I want to thank everybody on the Rockville City Police Department for their tireless and selfless support of our community each and every day. That's why Rockville is safe and resilient, and it will continue to be so because of their efforts. Our first award, the Life Saving Award, Corporal Plitt and Officer Joe Federer of the Rockville City Police Department. On June 16th, 2020, just after noon, Corporal Plitt and Officer Joe Federer responded to a residential building for a working code. While responding, officers learned that the victim had fallen on the floor and was unresponsive. During a Zoom meeting, Officer Federer arrived on the scene first and immediately began CPR, performing 2 cycles of CPR. Subsequently, Corporal Plitt began performing CPR and continued until fire and rescue arrived and took over the patient's care. Fire and rescue transported the victim to the hospital where he recovered the next day. The actions of Corporal Plitt and Officer Federer saved the man's life, certainly. For their efforts, they are honored with the Life Saving Award. Our next award is the Distinguished Service Citation for Corporal Derek Tibbs. On March 7th, 2020, just after 8 p.m., Corporal Derek Tibbs responded to an emergency call for assistance for fire and rescue, had responded also for a call for a sick person, but found the individual with a knife and threatening suicide. As officers on the scene were attempting to engage the individual, she became very agitated and ran towards a fence with her back to that fence. Corporal Tibbs arrived on the scene and was able to clearly engage in a very positive conversation with the individual, establishing a report. He became the point person during that incident. After patiently speaking with her and agreeing to let her have a cigarette, she put down the knife, and the individual agreed. The interaction lasted approximately 25 to 30 minutes of incredible de-escalation, at which time the woman was safely taken into custody and taken to a hospital for an evaluation. For his efforts and his care and his compassion, Corporal Tibbs allowed the incident to conclude safely and the woman to get the care that she desperately needed. Thank you. The next award is the Distinguished Service Citation for Sergeant Javier Piccaro, Corporal Chris Saddleson, Corporal Justin Piak, and Corporal Nicholas Roy of the Rockville City Police Department. On October 15, 2020, the Emergency Communications Center, ECC, received a call from the Veterans Crisis Center about a veteran who was suicidal. She told the crisis center that she wanted to kill herself and then hung up. The ECC was able to make contact with the veteran via the phone, and the veteran told the ECC caller that she had recently lost her housing and had no one left to help her, and believed she was a burden on her children and planned on committing suicide that night. The investigation revealed the veteran may have been near King Farm in the area of a local hotel. Officers thoroughly searched the area. Members of Patrol Team 6, Sergeant Piccaro, Officers Corporal Saddleson, Corporal Justin Piak, and Corporal Nicholas Roy found the veteran in a vehicle in the King Farm neighborhood. They treated her with compassion and dignity, and although she was told initially uncooperative, the woman developed a rapport with the officers and eventually allowed herself to be taken into the hospital without incident. The coordinated efforts of our fine officers, as well as the care and compassion in handling this very delicate situation, saved the life of another veteran and a mother and allowed her to get the much help that she needed. Thank you, Bill.
Hi, I'm Trin Lee with ServPro of Rockville-Olney. We are so happy to be here today because we support the community that we work in. We support our peace officers, our local emergency responders, and we also support our business community. So great thanks to Marji and her leadership and all the wonderful things that the Rockville Chamber of Commerce does, and thank you to all the peace officers.
We have a lot of good work in Rockville City, so got quite a few to go. Distinguished Service Citation is going to be presented to Corporal Philip Parnell, Corporal David Trugolo, Lieutenant Jason West, and Officer Jeff Park of the Rockville City Police Department, and Officer Jeff Brewer of the Montgomery County Police Department. On November 22nd, 2020, just before 11 p.m., officers were dispatched to a residence for a suicide attempt. The caller reported that his daughter, who suffers from mental illness and depression, left the house after an argument with her boyfriend. The boyfriend began to track her iPhone and determined that she was in the area of Lake Frank. Officers responded to that area and located her vehicle unoccupied in the parking lot. The boyfriend contacted officers and said that he had received a text from her and stated that she had consumed a bottle of Valium. Realizing the urgency, Corporal Parnell organized a coordinated search effort for multiple officers and contacted search managers and requested the Maryland State Police helicopter. While Corporal Parnell and David Trugolo coordinated their search efforts and multiple resources involved, Lieutenant Jason West, Officer Jeff Park, and Officer Jeff Brewer searched the lake trail. Officer Brewer, utilizing a handheld FLIR device, which is a thermal imaging infrared camera, located a hotspot in the woods. Corporal West now Lieutenant West, and Officer Park found the victim, who was semi-conscious, under a brush pile several hundred yards from the nearest path. Corporal West, now Lieutenant West, and Officer Park and Officer Brewer carried the victim several hundred yards over steep terrain where the medics were able to treat her and transport her to the hospital. The incident could have ended tragically. However, thanks for the hard work and dedication and compassion and teamwork, these officers, the victim's life was saved and she was able to get the much needed treatment that she needed. Congratulations, gentlemen. Our next award, the Meritorious Service Citation, is presented to Police Communications Operator Alice Fishcorn of the Rockville City Police Department. When a person calls the Rockville City Police Department, a Police Communications Operator, PCO, answers the call via the phone. The PCO is ready to help the caller for whatever assistance is needed. PCOs are the first point of contact for everything that we do in the police department. There is no clerical or administrative position that must endure this type of stress and remain calm and meticulously administering their duties. On October 16, 2020, early in the afternoon, PCO Alice Fishcorn was on duty and received a call from a female who was upset, depressed, and emotionally disturbed. The caller said that she did not know who to turn to and needed someone to talk to. PCO Fishcorn established a level of trust and rapport that is critical for a positive outcome in calls involving someone who might be suicidal. She asked specific questions regarding the caller's location, and the caller stated that she was an Army security guard and was at work. After several minutes of trusting conversation and reassuring dialogue in conversation, it moved to a discussion of personal details about her lives and their lives. And they agreed that laughter can assist them when someone has a state of mind. The call ended, and the caller was being extremely thankful for her time and attention given to PCO Fishcorn. The caller and PCO Fishcorn remain in contact to this day and have developed a friendship. Congratulations. Another Meritorious Service Citation for Mr. Max Crago, PCO Alice Fishcorn, PCO Michael, PCO Carl Nadler, PCO Keisha Paul, PCO Martha Aparicio, and PCO Edwina Ritchie of the Rockville City Police Department. The role of police communications operators, PCOs, in the chain of public safety is a great one, and many times goes unnoticed. the job is critical, not only as the first line of communication with our community, but is also critical communication piece for police officers on the street. The Rockville City Police Department communications staff goes above and beyond that on a daily basis. But during 2020, their dedication, zeal, and adaptiveness was greatly tested. The year had many challenges, with COVID-19 in full swing, social unrest throughout our country, locally, and challenges with our communications equipment. On several occasions, due to potential unrest, communications staff had to prepare a plan for relocation if needed. The required extensive coordination, however, the communications staff not was only prepared, but enacted a plan with the department's plan, but prepared to do so without an interruption of service to do everything that we do for our community. Thankfully, it was not needed. Additionally, the department experienced infrastructure challenges with communications equipment. Communications staff worked through all the curveballs that were thrown at them in the roads and always maintained normal operations. Even though 2020 presented new and unthought of challenges, our communications staff was able to adapt and overcome each and every one of those times, keeping critical communications role up and running throughout the city of Rockville with professionalism and dedication. Again, the Meritorious Service Citation is presented to these fine PCOs in the Rockville City Police Department. Thank you.
I'm Roger Pulley, with FirstNet Solutions Consultant with FirstNet, and we're here representing the nationwide public safety broadband network built by AT&T. And we're just really glad to be here representing FirstNet on such a great occasion. We think it's important to honor our first responders. They dedicated their lives to public service, and I think it's important that we, the people that they protect, give back to them by honoring them while they're here. So it's very important, and we're glad to be here.
I would now like to welcome Chief Vagonis and Rockville Volunteer Fire Department President Bernard.
President Bernard and I are going to tag team this just a little bit, but I want to just take a minute and say thank you to all of the individuals out there and all of you family members that are out there that allow these folks to go and serve our communities and serve in ways that sometimes you may never know where they're coming home. And I want to say thank you to all of you guys. And I'd like all the people that are here that are in uniform to give your family members a hand, please. Thank you very much. The life of a volunteer. I have 4 members that are going to receive a Meritorious Service Award. Firefighter 3 Kamali, Lieutenant Halleck, please come forward. Master Firefighter Bastine, and Deputy Chief Christopher Hine, who is not present with us. He's on vacation, who is actually the son of William Hine that the mayor spoke about earlier. So these individuals have stepped forward last year in an incredible way. The life of a volunteer at the Rockville Volunteer Fire Department, otherwise known as the RVFD, it's a rewarding, but it's a very demanding position. As the fire chief there, it's an absolute privilege for me to be the fire chief of this great organization with roughly 300 volunteers that serve. So it makes it hard for me to single out a few individuals, but I have to do that. The life of a volunteer. They spend about 600 hours volunteering every year. That's the minimum requirement. However, as we look at these three individuals and the one that's not with us, they've gone above and beyond. We start to recognize folks that spend more than 2,000 hours with us. So think about that. If you go to work every year, you spend about 2,000 hours at work. So they basically are a full-time job, and they're providing that to me, to the community, to our department, free. These individuals, however, have gone well beyond that last year. I'm going to just read these off. Firefighter 3 Kamali, 4,492 hours. 2 full-time jobs he committed to this community last year. Lieutenant Halleck, 4,159 hours. Incredible commitment to the organization and the citizens. Master Firefighter Bastine, 3,572 hours. When you sit down and you look at this, you're like, man, it's incredible. Deputy Chief Hine, 2,200 hours. These guys stepped forward in a time of need last year when there was incredible amount of uncertainty that they were going into. And these are the folks that ran front line on our ambulances, our fire trucks, and went out there and assisted these individuals when the calls for help came. Just to give you a quick kind of throwdown of how many hours the volunteers at Rockville put in, it's roughly 110,000 hours out of about 175 of my active 300 volunteers. It's incredible. So I'd like to congratulate these guys on their earned Meritorious Service Award.
My name is Audra Pettis, and I'm the Community Relations Director at SkyPoint Federal Credit Union. SkyPoint was formerly known as Montgomery County Employees Federal Credit Union. So our credit union specifically served Montgomery County employees. So we are proud to be a part of this event because the foundation of who we serve are first responders for Montgomery County employees. So we're very, very proud to be here as a sponsor to support the Rockville Chamber of Commerce and to continue to financially benefit our county employees with our full service products for financial wellness.
The Chief expressed the Rockville Volunteer Fire Department is an all-volunteer organization. We work side by side with career members of the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service and with all of our partners here today, especially from the Rockville City Police, which in their awards you heard many of them really want to be a firefighter since their awards are for fire and rescue and life saving. So thank you to our sisters and brothers in public safety, and thank you for being here today. We're going to honor one other volunteer from the Rockville Volunteer Fire Department, and that is Captain Ray Whalen. So it's hard to imagine with people volunteering over 4,000 hours, and those are in-station hours. That's not being at home, that's not being at work, that's being in a firehouse and on calls during COVID. But our volunteers do have other lives and professions and hobbies. On September 5th last year, Captain Ray Whalen and his wife Mary, who is here today, were on their boat, and they were anchored on the Corsica River about a mile from Centerville, Maryland, when at approximately 4:30, he noticed a small power boat about 300 yards away. That boat had run aground, and a few other boats had gathered nearby. Through binoculars, he saw what appeared to be a man performing CPR on someone on the swim platform. Captain Whalen and his wife immediately launched their dinghy and sped to the scene. He also ran aground about 30 to 40 feet from the other boat, but he got out and he dragged his dinghy toward the boat. Captain Whalen announced that he was a paramedic and asked what was happening. The man administering CPR reported that when they ran aground, the victim was thrown forward, run over, and hit by the propeller, suffering severe head wounds. Captain Whalen asked if anybody had called 911, and a female in the grounded boat said that she was talking to 911 at that moment. He told her to tell the emergency operators the situation was a priority 1 head trauma and that they would be bringing the victim to Centerville Landing. A moment later, when he reached the victim, he saw the female victim had many serious lacerations from head to calves. He told the other woman to tell 911 that she was a multi-system trauma and a 10-minute ETA to the Centerville Landing. Paramedic Whalen had no medical or personal protective equipment. The victim was unconscious and needed to be immediately transported to the shore. In less than a minute, the victim was moved to the dinghy and quickly taken to Centerville Landing, about 1 mile away. The Goodwill Fire Company, along with Queen Anne's County Medic Unit, were awaiting, and the victim was moved to the ambulance. In less than 10 minutes, a Maryland State Police helicopter appeared and transported the victim to Johns Hopkins Bayview in Baltimore. Sadly, the victim succumbed to her injuries that night. But due to the quick and decisive actions taken by Captain Paramedic Whalen getting her to shore, she lived long enough so the family could gather and be with her during her last hours. His quick thinking and decisive actions are excellent examples of a very efficient chain of survival. For never hesitating to put himself in danger to help another person off duty on his boat, Captain Ray Whalen is awarded the Citation for Bravery.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Ryan Zeberline, and I'm with BK Technologies. I'm the Federal Sales Director for DHS, and we are actually very proud to be here today sponsoring the annual Public Safety Award Ceremony. BK Technologies markets, manufactures, and sells land mobile radio solutions to mission critical and first responders. And we are just out here today again supporting the event locally. Our CEO actually is a Montgomery County resident, lives just outside of Rockville. And although we are currently not doing much business here locally within Rockville, Montgomery County, we would like to get more entrenched and support the local efforts here of our first responders. We do a lot of work on the federal side as well with DOI, Department of Interior, and that's actually what John is at. He's actually with the Forestry Service today. They're one of our largest customers, and he's actually out there supporting the wildfire camp out in California. So he sends his condolences for not being able to make it today. He had planned on being here, and again, just thank you for having us, and look forward to spending the day meeting everyone. Thank you.
And I welcome Sheriff Popkin to the podium.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great seeing everybody here, and I'm so glad that we're able to host today's Public Safety Awards in light of the current health situation. On behalf of Sheriff Popkin and the rest of the staff here in the Sheriff's Office, I'm very honored to be able to recognize 3 of our deputies today. And the first citation is going to be the Meritorious Service Citation, and that's awarded to Deputy Sheriff 2 Omar Cham and Deputy Sheriff 2 Hakeem Bayan of the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. On October 8th, 2020, deputies from the Court and Transportation section of the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office were requested by Metro Transit Police to assist with transportation of a wanted person who was extremely overweight and could not fit into their transport vehicle. Upon arrival at the Silver Spring Metro Station, deputies realized that because of the person's immense size and weight, he was unable to be transported in the sheriff's office van. The sheriff's deputies were no longer needed at the scene, and they went back into service. However, on October 9th, 2020, out of concern for the man, deputies contacted Metro Transit Police to inquire about the person's wanted status. They were informed that the man was no longer wanted, but the deputies thought about the severity of the man's physical condition and were concerned about his mental health. Based on their previous observations and the guidance of MC-44 and the Mobile Crisis Unit, the deputies decided to visually check on and assess the man's condition. Prior to arrival at the man's last known location, the Silver Spring Metro Station, the deputies happened to hear a call for service for lewdness and indecency. The subject of the call matched the man's description that they were checking on. On scene, deputies Chom and Bayan saw that the man was covered in human excrement and other filth. They spoke with the man to assess his mental health. The man relayed that he was unsure of his whereabouts and made bizarre statements referring to himself having a different name. Based on the deputies' observation of the decline in the man's mental and physical health, they transported the subject to a hospital via ambulance with the assistance of Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Services for the purpose of an emergency evaluation petition. The hospital medical staff told the deputies that they were familiar with the man. Due to the outstanding response to the unusual situation by deputies Chom and Bayan, a duty they performed that was beyond their normal assigned duties, the man was able to receive the appropriate medical attention to address his physical and mental health. In addition, the deputies' actions contributed to the safe and orderly atmosphere at the Silver Spring Metro Station for other county residents and the daily commuters that frequent that area. Deputy Chom and Deputy Bayan performed an efficient and invaluable service with compassion to a man in need. Their admirable performance directly reflects the mission of the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office and qualifies them for this meritorious service citation. The next award, and the last award, is our Citation for Bravery. We're going to recognize Sergeant Stephen Austin, again of the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. On November 17, 2020, Montgomery County Sheriff Sergeant Stephen Austin, who was assigned to the K-9 section, was contacted by members of the Montgomery County Police Repeat Offender Unit, or ROU, to assist with K-9 support during an arrest of a subject wanted for a homicide in another state. Case and tactical information was disseminated among the members, as well as where the subject was believed to be parked in a residential neighborhood in Montgomery County. Officers observed the location from a safe distance, but as they closed in on the area, the subject's vehicle began to move. After some time, the subject's vehicle traveled into Prince George's County and came to a stop. Sergeant Austin and detectives had to immediately consider conducting an arrest that would be safest for the public and most advantageous for them. As the officers attempted to arrest the subject, a shooting occurred. Sergeant Austin found that one member of the arrest team had injuries consistent with bullet wounds, and he immediately recognized the severity of the trauma. He utilized his first aid training to place his open palm over the wounds of the officer's chest and back. Sergeant Austin was fortunate to call upon a nearby officer to obtain a medical kit with a chest seal. With the help of an assisting officer, chest seals were used to cover pulse-penetrating wounds. The injured officer was then placed in a recovery position so that EMS staff could take over his medical care. Members of the Prince George's Police Department Crime Scene Unit arrived on scene and observed that Sergeant Austin's hands and uniform were covered in blood of the injured officer. Sergeant Austin remained on scene until members of the Prince George's Police Department Crime Scene Unit released him from duty. Had it not been for Sergeant Austin's quick response, first aid training, immediate performance of trauma first aid, and extensive experience as a deputy and canine handler, the incident could have resulted in a tragic outcome. Sergeant Austin's actions reflect the high standards of the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office and his own, and he is awarded the Citation for Bravery. And I'd like to add that it's my understanding that that Montgomery County police officer has made a full recovery and is back on duty. Thanks to Caesar.
Congratulations again to everyone. And one final but very important piece of business. We all know that in a few days we are marking a very sad anniversary for our country. Although when I think about it, I could probably stand here till tomorrow listing all the sad things that have happened, or challenging or frightening things that have happened to us just in the last couple of years. I'd like all the veterans or active duty personnel to please stand so that we can give you a round of applause. Thank you for your service. Reverend Kaseman.
I say to all the honorees, on behalf of us all, well done, good and faithful servants. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And may God continue to bless and protect you. I commission all of us now to go forth in peace. Be of good courage, hold fast to what is good, return no one evil for evil, strengthen the faint-hearted, help the poor, rescue those in dire circumstances. Love and serve one another with gladness of heart, rejoicing always in the power of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Please join us for refreshments and help yourself. They've been offered by the Bag Deli.